Okay, so today is taking our trigonometry knowledge in a slightly different direction. It's called inverse trigonometry because what we're doing, instead of finding a missing side, you'll remember that last class we had an angle given here and maybe another side and then an unknown side, like this was the x. So what changes about these problems is now it's the angle that's missing. But the process is largely the same. So I'm going to begin by writing the little rules here on the side, just as we did before. Step one is which angle. And again, we see that we've only got one angle other than the right angle. We're not interested in the right angle beyond knowing that there is a right angle. We have to have right angles to do this stuff. But what we're interested in is the other angle. In this case, it's an x. So that's my eyeball. That's the perspective I'm looking from. Step two is then the sides. Are they O, A, or H? And relative to this eyeball, I look across all the way across the triangle, way over to here. So this is my opposite side. And then of course, right out of the right angle, straight across, that forces that to be the hypotenuse. Even though it is adjacent to the angle, the name hypotenuse is overriding that. So in this case, we've got the O and the H. That's the pair of sides we've got. That leads us to number 3 in our steps, which is it so, ka, or toa? And again, all this should feel like refreshing from last class. So I'm going to look at this. I see I've got an O and an H. That's an O and an A. That's an A and an H. This is an O and an H. So it's going to be a so. And as a result, I know that I can now set up an equation. And this is so far exactly like we did last time. Here's where it takes a slight twist. I know it's going to be sine. I'm going to leave a gap there for a second. And then it's going to be the opposite over the hypotenuse. Always, 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 what follows sine is the angle. In this case, our angle is the unknown. So we're going to put an x in there. And then that equals opposite over hypotenuse. So in this case, that would be 15 over 24. So conceptually, this is still the same as what we did before, but now there's a difference. Remember last class we had level 1 that was just cross multiply once and you're done. Then level 2 is where you had to cross multiply and then divide, a little bit harder in the solving. This will be level 3, and the reason it's level 3 is because we have to work a little harder to solve it. So we ask ourselves, what's being done to x? Whenever we're solving for x, what we're saying is what's being done now because I want to undo that. So for example, if it had been x times 6, we'd divide by 6 because multiplying and dividing are opposites of each other. If it had been x plus 2, we'd say minus 2 because adding 2 and subtracting 2 are opposites of each other. So in this case, what's being done to x? Well, it's being signed as a verb. Sine is an action being done against this degree value. In other words, it magically takes this degree value and tells me what the ratio of the specific opposite and the hypotenuse would be. So I need to unsign it. I need to desinusify. I need to anti-sinification. It's also called inverse sine. The symbol is sine with a little -1 in the exponent. And if I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other side. What that leaves me with is, these two things cancel each other, leaving just x equals inverse sine of 15 over 24. This is just a mistake over here. So take out my calculator. I'll use the phone because it seems a lot of you guys are using the phone. And we're going to start with the numbers in the parentheses because we have to figure out what that fraction is. So I'm going to go 15 divided by 24 equals. Now I've represented that fraction as a decimal. And what I want to do is desinify, anti-sinification, dissign. No, it's called inverse sine. It's the sine button, but first I have to hit the second key. The second key brings up reciprocal functions for a lot of these things. And so now you'll notice this says sine of -1. And when I hit the sine of -1, it'll tell me what the angle had to be so that when I took the sine, I'd get 15/24. In this case, that would be 38.7 degrees. Any questions on that? Let's do another one. So first step, what's the angle? All right, there's my perspective. Second step, which sides have I got? Well, the right angle tells me that this one is the hypotenuse. So let's get that out of the way. And then I see that this side is touching my angle. That's my next door neighbor. It's not on the opposite side over here. So that's A. A and H, when I look at my SO, Ka, or TOA, that's a Ka. That tells me that I can write the equation cosine, and always, always, always after the cosine, sine, or tangent comes the angle. In this case, that angle is unknown, so it's x adjacent over hypotenuse. So A over H, 8/11. I want to solve for x. Right now, x is being cosigned, so I need to use the inverse cosine to both sides to be able to isolate x. These two pieces cancel, leaving me with just x equals the inverse cosine of 8/11. Excuse me. And I'll plug that into a calculator. So I'll say 8 divided by 11. Make sure that I hit equals here. If I try to hit anti-cosine with the 11 on the screen, it's not going to work. I need to get into that decimal value first, and then I say second sine to the -1. Oh, I did that wrong because I didn't want sine, I wanted cosine. So 8 divided by 11, and then I'll do second. Oh, looks like the second button held. Anti-cosine. So 43.3. Okay, would you guys please try number 3 yourselves now? Go. All right, let's take a look. So here's my eyeball. That makes this opposite. This is adjacent. I'm not using my hypotenuse. That tells me it's tangent, TOA. So the tangent of x equals 20/37. which means x equals the inverse tangent of 20 over 37. Second's already pressed, so that's inverse tangent 28.4. Would you please give me some feedback in the chat? How did you do? 5, I got it right. 3, I got it really close. I think I'd get it right next time. 1, I don't know how to do it. Somebody asked the question about how you get the negative cosine. You have to hit this button up here, the second, pulls up the second set of features. Okay. Any specific questions? Okay, what you're seeing in front of you today is 3 more problems just like these. Then there's a little review on the bottom here. 7 through 10 is the same stuff from last class. So you're finding sides instead of angles. And then we've got some more practice of angles, some integrated ones that are kind of fun and going to make you think, a couple of word problems. And then this page is just 4 clean examples of each type, finding sides and finding angles. When you do this one, do it very carefully, show it very neatly, and these would be a great thing to have as your primary notes for this unit, so that when you're doing problems on the test, you can look at these as examples, and these will probably help you remember them. Okay, so what I plan to do then is just stick you all into breakout rooms. I can see a couple questions coming up, and I'm going to address those individually in the breakout rooms. If you'd like to be with some other people, I'm happy to accommodate that. So I'm going to create right now breakout rooms for